upsized? Sized up. Upcycled is the other word.
I think so.
Let's make that just the tiniest bit nicer. Wait, what's happening here? Hello, welcome back. Very serendipitously, I'm actually going to be posting this video on Halloween. Happy Halloween, hope you're having a great time. But this is not gonna be a Halloween video. I already made 2 of those. I'm ready to move on to just celebrating autumn. I'm just gonna have a little fun and do a couple of crochet autumn leaves projects. The idea of having a maple leaf book bag like burst into my brain in the middle of the night, and I could not stop thinking about it until I had made it for myself. So that's the first project, and the second project is going to be like a fern, wintry leaf, evergreen vest. Now, I needed some help with how to figure out how to get the shapes for this, so I wanted to give credit where credit is due. There are 2 creators who made very tiny versions of both of these projects. I sized both these projects up, and it took a lot of work and brain power to do so. Regardless, these 2 creators were so helpful in getting my feet off the ground to where I could understand the shapes that I was going for. Let me credit them. I need my computer. Okay, so the first one is Super Easy Maple Leaf Tutorial by Creative Hands by Shay. And the second one is How to Crochet Fern Leaf by Handmade by Rain. Both of these videos were so helpful. Both these people made it so easy to understand the shapes that I was trying to go for. If you would like to attempt to make either of these things, because really what I'm doing is showing you what I did. I wasn't really doing this to teach anyone else how to do them. But I tried my best in case you would like to attempt it. I am a chaos crocheter. I don't count stitches. I don't do any of those things. The best thing if you would like to try either of these projects, which if you can understand the complete and utter chaos that is just me trying to explain what I was doing, I would actually highly recommend going and watching their videos and then coming back to me to see how I sized both of them up to be big enough to be clothing / accessory pieces. So with all that out of the way, let me show you how I made these 2 pieces. For both of these projects, I'm using a 3-weight yarn. Now, my first try for this project didn't go well. It's just a really weird shape. It might make like a cute doll wig or maybe a hat for Ollie. My second try was much more successful. I was scared there for a second. Now there's a couple of small changes I wanted to make for the second leaf, but let's go ahead and get started. So I started by making a long chain of 48 stitches plus 2 to create the height for the next row, so that would be 50. Come back, make your first row. That's all normal, but for the third row, instead of chaining 1 and flipping over as you normally would, I created 3 extra single crochets in that last stitch and came around to the other side. This row will be the start of the decreases. Oh, also as with the smaller leaves that I recommended at the beginning of this video, I only inserted the hook into the back stitches to create the ribbed effect. So when I reached the top again, I stopped 2 to 3 stitches short, chained 1, flipped it around, counted 3 stitches in, and put my first stitch into that third stitch down from the previous row. And then I headed back towards the bottom. I'm not counting my stitches. I simply go off how much to increase or decrease per row. That tends to work for me, but I know that that doesn't work for everybody. When I would get back down to the bottom, I would skip the stitch before the very bottom stitch and then single crochet 4 to 5 times in that bottom stitch as I crochet over to the other side. Everything else is normal until you get to the top. And I kept repeating that until I had 9 peaks, as I'm calling them, on either side of the first row. I know that picots is another term that you can use, but I don't think that's quite what these are. Also, side note, you may have been noticing my fake candles, but what are you supposed to do when you want the cozy vibes of candles, but one of your biggest fears that keeps you up at night is accidentally burning your house down because you are forgetful and you might forget to blow out a candle? Fake candles, that's just the better way for me and my mental health. Baby, I'm back. They do. I totally thought I was going to be able to get this done in that one day. I kind of forgot, the illusion of spooky cozy times. The sun is going down much sooner than I remember, and the lighting in here is already not the best, so I just thought it was best to stop. And I'm gonna let voiceover me take over. Okay, so this is what I meant by 9 on each side. You don't count the middle or first rows you made for the highest point. Then I started working on the next large section of the maple leaf, so instead of going back and forth, I only worked on one half and then worked on the second half later. Once I had the correct number on each side, I crocheted towards the top and stopped a few stitches before where the last row ended. I then chained 5, flipped it around, counted 3 stitches in as I did before, and headed back towards the bottom. Now I didn't go all the way back down as I had been doing before that. I stopped about halfway down. I eyeballed this, but if you want to try this out and you want to count your stitches, it would probably end up being much more accurate. But once I was back at the top, I left 1 or 2 stitches from the previous row just to give it a more leafy texture and make it look less smooth. And wait, where am I? And then I repeated the last couple of steps. At the bottom, when I was about 1 stitch away from being flush with the row before, I skipped that stitch and did 1 single stitch in the base of that main teardrop area. With each subsequent row, I kept moving down this main area towards the actual bottom of the leaf, and then I would flip it over and go back towards the top, skipping 2 or 3 stitches there as well, just to keep it kind of slim towards that end. I repeated the steps at the top, and once back at the bottom, I always look for that stitch from that first row of this section. So I stopped 1 stitch away from the end, skipped that stitch, and then did a single crochet into that original stitch. I'm going to show this process without me talking just a couple more times to see if it can make more sense to anyone who's not me. You're going to keep repeating this until you have 8 little peaks for this section. And then I started decreasing, just as I had done before, 2 to 3 stitches less per row, and still following the same pattern towards the bottom. At the bottom, I started needing to add an extra stitch in order to reach that base first section, which is what you can see me doing here. Yeah, this part is really hard to explain. Once again, I'm just going to show it a couple more times so that it might look clearer, because I think saying the words can be confusing. I was trying to keep the bottom portion more slimmed out so that the top would have that slightly curved shape. And as you can see with each row, I am moving down towards the very bottom of the first section. And towards the end of the section, I would go ahead and do an extra single crochet and then start on the next row. Again, I'm just trying to get that curved shape. Once I had 7 peaks on the decreasing side, I was finally near the bottom of my original work, and I then single crocheted to the other side to do the same on the other half. Once both halves were done, I then went on to make the smaller sections. I started by making 4 to 5 single crochets at the bottom just to kind of make a little bump at that bottom section. Once again, I went about halfway up the previous section to start my next section. And as what always happens to me at least once per project, I had to take out a huge knot that I had somehow created. Since I went halfway up on the row towards the top, on the rows that are heading down, I added anywhere to 3 to 5 single crochets, depending on how it looked to me. I returned to what I had done with the original section, and instead of doing half and then the other half, I started working on both halves simultaneously. I also did the same thing where I skipped the stitch before the middle. This all keeps this middle area from having sagging areas, which is what was happening on my other leaf. I only did increases on these little leaflet sections instead of the increases and decreases that I've been doing before. So I did 4 to 5 increases, and then I moved on to my final section where I once again stopped halfway and then just made 3 sets of increases using the same technique. I then made a little stem that ended up being too long, but I doubled it up, and honestly I like the structure for such a tiny part of the leaf. I had a thrifted tablecloth, which I thought would be the perfect fall aesthetic for a lining. I lastly hand stitched both the lining and the crocheted leaves together for extra strength. I hand stitched everything, but you can also use a sewing machine. Attach the strap, and this project is done. On to the next project, but first,
Here's just some small appreciation shots of nature in fall.
Okay, so today there's going to be a ton of experimenting. I realized I hadn't done an intro yet for this section, so we're going to do that now. My next project is going to be a a wintry leaf spruce sweater. I looked online for like crocheted spruce, stuff of that nature, and the closest thing that I could find in the style that I liked was a fern. I used this creator as my starting off point. Their video was really great. It was really easy to understand. I basically ended up sizing up everything, so I would recommend going and watching their video and then popping back here to show you how I upsized everything. Sized up. Upcycled is the other word. Sized up to make it a sweater length. My idea is that the back will just be a regular sweater vest, and then the front will kind of have like two ferns at the front. So I figured out how to do that, and this is what it looks like. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. No, we're gonna do some experimenting with how to fix this because I think it's fixable. I have a plan. This would be kind of cute though to like hang off your mantle for like holiday decorations though. That's not a bad idea. I'm gonna steam this first. I have my steamer here today. And then what I think I'm gonna do is kind of individually stitch some places together, and then we'll go from there. We're gonna take this piece by piece because I really don't know where we're going with this one. Also, this yarn, I'm scared to make any mistakes. Can't like undo any of my mistakes. I think this is like a wool cotton blend, or maybe it's, I forget. But either way, it does not want to be undone. So when I crochet something and I make a mistake, I can't undo it. It's very scary. I don't like it. I make a lot of mistakes in my crocheting, and even more in knitting, but crochet has a good amount. But you know what? I saw this wives' tale like a really, really long time ago. Grandmothers used to think that you needed to keep like mistakes in your crochet and knitting so that you kept the demons out. I make mistakes to keep the demons at bay. You're welcome. Although I did more research on it, and apparently some people say that it's like an Irish old wives' tale, and it was to keep out fairies, and others said that it was like an Amish tradition to try to not to imitate God. I think the demon one's pretty metal though. Let's start experimenting. Yay.
So this steaming ended up taking so long. I literally had to get it really wet so that it would stay where I put it instead of curling back up.
Okay, what if it wasn't just one candle, but 3 candles? Okay, sorry, my oven is going in the background. First things first, I bought this set of things that were not bagged. They're called tea drops, and they kind of compress them, and it just looked really cool and a fun little weekly thing to do that kind of helped me enjoy fall, because it's not as if I need any help in that area, but sometimes little things for self-care is important. Some of them I had planned to drink cold, but since it's a chilly day, I want to drink this one warm, and it was the Rose Earl Grey. I'm not sponsored, by the way. I don't have enough of anything to be sponsored. It's called Rose Earl Grey. There's also a chocolate Earl Grey, but I don't know. I want to try this one first. Okay, that's really good. That is so, sometimes rose is too much of a floral flavor for me and things, like it distracts from the other flavors. It's good. This was not cheap. So perfectly fall. Oh my gosh. So yesterday was kind of a nothing burger of a day. I didn't really get as much done as I wanted to. So let's get started once again.
So I ended up taking the end of one leaflet from the top leaf and the corresponding leaflet from the bottom leaf, single crochet them together, chain 2, and repeat until I'd gone from one end to the other. And then at the top, I did the same thing, but changed the direction from top to bottom or bottom to top instead of side to side.
Okay, so when I first saw this put together, like all of these kind of attached, I was like, I don't know about this. But when I placed it where I wanted it to go, I mean, that's kind of cute, right? I mean, maybe it gives off more of a tree, maybe more like moss when it looks like this. I don't know, but either way, I think it's turning into something, which is still a good thing. So yay!
I'd already made my back pieces. I've shown before how I've made back pieces pretty similar to this. I don't want to just show the same thing over and over again, so I'll just link those videos below if you'd like to see how I do this without a pattern. I connected those together and then started on the leaves. Okay, so we start much the same as the first project. I chained 78 and then single crocheted for 2 more rows. The end that I finished those rows on, I would consider my bottom edge. So I slip stitched up 10, then started on the branch or leaf or whatever you want to call it. It's simply chaining however many you want and then single crocheting back and then chaining another length and then single crocheting back. It's pretty simple. It's repetitive. So for the bottom leaf, I would do 5 sets of chaining 11, 4 sets of chaining 10, 3 sets of 9, 3 sets of 7, and then 5 sets of 5. Again, it's going to be like 1 less. So if you chain 11, you're going to single crochet 10, but I think it's just easier to tell you how many I chained. So after you have 3 of your 5 sets of 5, you're going to slip stitch your next one into the previous line so that you can make 1 leaf and kind of turn it over, if that makes sense. Then I slip stitched 10 up. The next one was the same. The only difference was that I only did 4 sets of 11. And then for the next section, I slip stitched 9, and again, the only difference is 3 sets of 11. Then I slip stitched up 8, and this one I made much shorter, so it's 4 sets of 9, 4 sets of 7, and 5 sets of 5. Then I slip stitched up 8, and that was exactly the same as the one before. And then I slip stitched up 7, and this one is very short with only 4 sets of 7 and 5 sets of 5. Then when you get to the top, you're going to connect each of these little like phalange looking things to the main stem instead of to each other. And for that, I did 2 sets of 15 chain stitches, 2 sets of 11, 1 9, 1 7, and 5 sets of 5. I decided at this point that it did indeed look too much like a tree for my liking, so I added a longer stem and 2 much shorter sections to give it a more leaf shape. Lastly, I connected the leaves to the back pieces, and now both projects are done, and it is time to show you the final result.
And there are the two projects. I really love the maple leaf book bag. I'm gonna wear that all the time. The fern leaf is interesting. I think I'll like it. I was kind of running out of time here, so I didn't quite have enough time to style the fern vest in a way that I probably would have liked. I'm gonna try that again. Watch out for a short where I actually try to style it. I think like maybe with a skirt, make it more like an eclectic, quirky, I hate saying that word, you know, a little bit more of a unique outfit, like leaning into the uniqueness of the piece basically. Next video is going to be so fun. I'm just on a roll here recently, just being really real. I'm always excited about the things I make, but these ones have been like so perfectly experimental for me. There's a line for me where like it's too experimental to where I'm frustrated, and there's other projects where it's like it's something I've done before. Several of videos upcoming are just like the perfect in-between for experimenting. That one, I'm gonna give you a hint, it's me painting fabric in a very fun and interesting way that a lot of us probably learned as kids. So I'm excited to try that. But if you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you had a good time, and I hope to see you back here next time. Bye.